Mingalava, welcome to our panel discussions about safe return to school brought to you by WaterAid Myanmar in partnership with Myanmar Times TV. I'm your host, Momot. I would like to introduce you with our panelists today. From WaterAid Myanmar, we have Country Director Mr. Shihab Ahamad. And I also have with me Ms. Jung Kunugi from UNICEF Myanmar. COVID-19 has affected our lives so much, and we have to change a lot of our behavior to keep ourselves and the community safe. But we cannot put our life on hold forever, particularly when it comes to our children's education. So the Myanmar government plans to reopen the school for the top 2 grades on July 21, with younger grades to follow soon after. Today, we will be discussing the government preparations and how Myanmar can ensure children can return to their classrooms safely. But many parents might feel a bit worried about their children going back to school at this time. So to start, I would like to ask Ms. John why it is important that kids get back into their classroom even while COVID-19 is still a threat.
Yes, thank you so much. That's a very important question. And we know at on the onset of the COVID-19 crisis, there were so many unanswered questions about the impact of COVID-19, how it affects children, do they get infected or sick at the same rate as adults do? Can children transmit the virus, and how can we make schools safe? And since then, the evidence points to the fact that children in schools are actually not the main drivers, of the epidemic across countries. And then on the other hand, evidence on the negative impacts of school closures on children, are very much there. We know that, schools actually keep children safe. The fact that there's a negative impact of a long gap of no learning, and it also infringes upon the children's right to education. So the longer children are out of school, they may become exposed to risks, either from undertaking or being exposed to risky situations, risky behaviors, be led to be involved in child labor. And then also, they also have, education has been proven to have so many benefits in terms of better health and nutrition and productivity, employment opportunities later on in life. So again, and it's also so much part of giving children an equal chance to develop their potential and have, opportunities for, employment and being productive citizens in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. For the second question, I would like to ask for the youth. It will be a big challenge for the Ministry of Education to manage the reopening of schools. So how does the government plans to reopen the schools in a way that keeps teachers and children safe? What would a return to schools looks like during a pandemic? So Mr. Shihab, I would like to ask, would you like to respond first?
Yeah, sure. Myanmar is fortunate that community transmission, it's actually for the last almost 1 month, it's almost a zero community transmission. Only there is some cluster cases. So I guess that Myanmar government and the society is relatively in a better situation and ready to send the children to the school as long as that school are ready with the system, maintaining social distance, ensuring proper hand washing stations there, teachers and also the school staffs are trained and they understand what is their roles and responsibility. The parents, they understand how to prepare their children, and kids are also understand that what is their role and how to maintain that hygiene, social distance, and also the government guidelines they are already in a process that they're issuing. So that is, if all these things are placed, I think it's okay to send the children in school.
Thank you, Mr. Shia. Ms. Jo, would you like to add anything to that?
So for example, right at the outset, even before WHO declared COVID-19 as a pandemic in March, we had already started working with the Ministry of Health and Sports in Myanmar, looking and supporting them in developing risk communication. So, we help produce things like social media messages, up to 5.8 million printed materials, public announcements, and these are in Myanmar language, and also up to 86 ethnic languages as well. Two very important things, and I can also send this to you, but we also shared with the Ministry of Education the international framework, for reopening schools, which had been developed globally by UNICEF, UNESCO, World Bank, and World Food Program. And so again, the Ministry of Education in Myanmar has been developing its own COVID-19 response plan and recovery plan, and also, basically adapted this framework. There's also something called the interim guidance, right, for COVID-19 prevention and controls in schools, and this was developed by UNICEF, WHO, and IFRC. And again, this actually provides a lot of knowledge, to the full extent that it's available on, preventing COVID-19 transmission, what measures can be taken in schools, what key facts that, parents, teachers, children themselves need to know, among other things. We've also been, looking at and supporting the strengthening of the communication channels of the Ministry of Education, at different, from Uddin to subnational levels, and also providing information to the general public, so families and including parents and children themselves.
Thank you for that, Mr. Shihab. We know that wash, especially hand washing, is very important for preventing the spread of COVID-19 as well as other diseases. So what is the current standards of wash facility in school in Myanmar?
Yeah. Thank you. What Ms. June was telling about, quite encouraging that government already they developed what they call guideline that for safer back to school, what kind of hand washing system and water system has to be there. So that's quite encouraging. But that like many developing countries, Myanmar schools, they lack the proper hand washing stations. I visited many schools. I have seen that they have a toilet, and in new schools they have a quite clean toilet, but hand washing stations are not quite in a poor condition, and most of the school doesn't have hand washing stations. But recently I visited a school in Yangon, and I realized that government instruction for setting up proper hand washing station, and school authority, they taken very seriously. They're in a process of setting up the hand washing station. I hope that before they open the school, hand washing station will be in place.
Thank you, Mr. Shia. I would like to stay with you for a minute.
Sure.
So education is an example of how we need to learn to live with COVID-19.
Yeah.
So how WaterAid has been working to ensure a safe return to school here?
Education system is the most important. So the children learn more in school and from the peers, from the teachers. So it is very important that the proper hand washing system and hygiene practices that they learn in school. How they learn? They see the good model toilet, good model hand washing basin in school, and also the running water with the soap. So if all these things are in place in school, this student, they will learn better. They will internalize it, they will practice it, and they will bring back those practice in their family and their society, and this is kind of lifelong. So it is very important that education institutions, they provide that high quality hygiene facility in school through practice as well as also through the learning system.
Thank you, Mr. Shihab.
Yeah.
Myanmar is not the only country when students are returning to school. All over the world, governments are dealing with these issues. So, Ms. Jones, what do you think we can learn from the experience of other countries that have already opened their schools?
Yes. So So I can speak about maybe some of the examples where UNICEF has been working with ministries of education to help reopen schools. Many countries are, following the activities that, similar to what I mentioned in terms about school, making sure that there are provisions for, physical and social distancing. But also what many countries and ministries are doing of education are doing is that they're also paying attention to children's psychological and emotional well-being, because it has been a difficult time. And we know that there has been a lot of anxiety among families and households. And, because a lot of what was, COVID-19 is that so much is unknown. And, there were all these restrictions in terms of movement and travel and economic activities. So there have been a lot of pressures and on households, and also many have been really affected economically. And this has been adding to the stress at household level. So in some countries, like in China, teachers have been trained to provide psychosocial support. And then, for example, Vietnam, there's a checklist that has been developed with UNICEF support to make sure that, they look carefully at all the different aspects to try to make schools safe, but also very supportive learning environments for children who are coming back to school after quite a long gap in some cases.
Thank you for that, Ms. Jones. Mr. Shihab, could you please share some international experiences from the WASH perspective?
Generally, that in Asia, the countries that are still struggling, there are, major struggle is about any school in Asia is very crowded. So while we are talking about that social distancing, it's not easy. So every country, they have to adopt, according to their own situation. In Yangon, in Langtaya, the schools, one school I visited, there were 8,000 students. It's almost impossible to ensure this, what I call the social distancing. So they have to go through, like a phased approach that first senior students will come back, and then they will, what I call, probably start, like a shifting classes, like a morning, midday school, and also alternative days, different model, different country also practicing different model. And from the WASH perspective, I think it is still, and as I said, it's very difficult because Asian countries, they probably invested less in WASH in school. Toilets are not very clean. Not in terms of number is not enough for ensuring that hygiene in toilets. Running water in schools, especially in rural areas, is very, very difficult. So all countries are struggling at this moment to ensure that hygiene practices in school. But I believe that this is also an opportunity for all countries to take the WASH seriously in education system, because for COVID case that bring us in a situation, because this is a kind of life-saving tools. So I hope that we'll learn from each other from different countries and see that how we can improve and invest in a WASH sector in school.
Thank you both. We have talked a bit about government preparations and the activity that WaterAid and UNICEF are undertaking. But Ms. Jones, what can parents do to prepare their children for a safe return to school? And what should parents do if their children are struggling to get back into the routines of school after many months off?
Yes, very important questions. And maybe the first about making sure children know proper hygiene practices, things like, the hand washing at least 20 seconds, and there's, a correct technique for that. Also, proper cough and sneeze etiquette, and definitely also about wearing masks properly, how to dispose of them, but also people should be using cloth masks or washable ones as well. They should, we also recommend that, when they go to school, that they take their own snacks if possible, and food, and also their own water. It's better if they don't share, the same drinking cup or bottles or so on. So these are some of the things that they can do. I think it's also, I think after many months of being away from school and friends and, learning activities, I think many children are actually eager to get back to school. And if they are concerned and if they're worried about COVID-19, I think it just is important to reinforce these measures and these practices, the hygiene behaviors and social distancing, and really explaining to them that measures have been taken to keep schools and learning safe.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Mr. Shihab, WaterAid is working on WASH in school all over the world. So what suggestion would you like to offer for how to improve WASH facility, WASH standards in the education sector in Myanmar?
So far I know that till now that government, civil society, like a UN system, we don't have a full picture that what exactly the WASH situation in school. And also it's like I have witnessed in many schools that especially where they have a new building, they also constructing now that good quality toilets. But most of the toilets do not have proper water facility and hand washing basin. Though Myanmar is, like they have one of the highest fresh water reserve. But the thing is, unfortunately, that water distribution across the country is not the same. The mountainous area, they have a less, or dry zone, they have a less water. And accessing that water to ensure that hygiene in toilets and as well as for personal hygiene outside the toilet, it's a very, very difficult. So this is one issue that government and the school management need to take care. The other thing is about promoting that hygiene in a school. It's very important that school teachers, parents teacher associations, school management committees, all they need to be oriented and trained that this is a very important aspect. They cannot, when they are very serious about quality of education, they also need to be serious about the health of the student. And students, they spend a lot of their time in school. So where they will learn, how to be healthy, but at the same time practice there. So that is the reason it's like it is very important that we take this, like a WASH, it's very seriously. And also I see that education system is the best tools to ensure that the rest of the society, they also understand and they learn the importance of water sanitation and hygiene practices to be healthy and also safe from many diseases. So that will be, and the WaterAid is, we are trying to work with the government and the education system and also the Ministry of Health to promote these areas. And you also often work with the UNICEF, WHO, this kind of intergovernmental organizations.
Well, that's all we have time today. I would like to thank our two panelists, Mr. Shihab from WaterAid Myanmar and Ms. Kunugi from UNICEF Myanmar.